Hello there, Reason people, Pooh Bear here, and welcome to Playing with the Players. This is to do with the Reasontalk challenge, and I'm not going to really be going into in-depths about the players themselves, but I'm going to be going through a little bit of detail of how I've actually configured some things together. I did actually try recording this in 4K because I use a 4K screen, and OBS started to eat up all my resources. So I'm having to resort to a smaller screen, and hopefully I'll be able to get myself around it. I'm not used to this sort of small stuff. So anyway, I'm going to start over onto the right hand side, and really I suppose before I do that, let's have a quick look at my setup. Obviously I've got nothing next to nothing going on in the sequencer, and I'm going to be winging it today. To be honest, I think I wing it most of my videos. Players in general, I think they're actually very good little devices. I think they're very quick for workflows. You can just sort of slap them on top of combinators, other instruments, devices, and off you go. And yeah, I think the workflows are good, and I think we're going to be seeing some, we've just had a whole batch of players come out which are very, very good, and I can bet in the future there's going to be even some more. So let's actually start over this far side, and I think the first thing I'm going to mention really is this note viewer. When I saw this note viewer, I thought, great, why do we need another note viewer? We've got scales and chords, which obviously can show the notes you're playing, and here is another note viewer. Do we really need one? And I think the player which has actually intrigued me most when I was putting this together is the note viewer. I've actually had a lot of fun with this little device, and I can see me using this quite a bit in the future, as well as some of these other devices as well. So straight away we've got this Euclidean running, and it's just running a straight 4x4 beat, and I've got it coming down obviously into this combinator, and I'm splitting off the note viewer into the Kong. And the reason I'm doing that is because obviously I've actually tuned the Euclidean to play my Europa, and now I've actually layered up this Kong as well, and because it is playing a totally different key, I've actually used the note view to transpose that key down to play the right drum. And hopefully we can get ourselves a demonstration of this. If I go to the input, you can see this is the key it's actually coming in on, because that's what it's playing the Europa. And obviously the output, we're coming down and we're playing, that's what we want to play. Quite straightforward, that is. Now, this next two combinators I've put together, they're in this combinator, but they're not actually doing anything. As you can see, I've got an ID at the bottom, but the ID is not even wired up. And that is purely there so I can stick the players on top, and I can actually save these in the combinator. So obviously these are MIDI CV converters, and I've linked them together, and I've daisy chained them together. And I've got two different kind of flavors going on here. I have what I call my full cascade, and I have a basic cascade. And the difference between the two is with the basic cascade, the whole point of these, should I say, let's go back a step, is when we design sounds and we put them in a combinator, we have all our effects and we have everything lined up, great. Then we get another combinator and we want to layer them. Well, it becomes hassle. It's not really an issue, it's a hassle. And so by using these player devices, these MIDI CV converters, I can just grab this and shove this on top of a combinator. I can then grab this and put it on another combinator, so when I play the first, it's going to daisy chain and play the second for me, and so on and so forth. Now with this simple setup is I have what's called a master, and I refer to these as my slaves, so I have to play the master for the slaves to play. If I happen to go to one of the slaves and play it, it's only going to play that instrument and nothing else. With this more complex setup, it goes one stage further, which is, yes, I do have a top master, and I do refer to these as slaves. The difference being is, if I say had these first four set up on four different combinators or instruments, if I played the second one instrument, it would play the third and fourth instrument. If I played just the third instrument, it would play the third and fourth, and if I played the fourth, it would only play the fourth only. And of course, if I play the top one, it'll play them all. And that is the whole point of that simple setup. And we can actually see this in use. So I'm just going to grab this one here, put it on top of this combinator, grab the next one, I'm going to put it on top of this Europa, and I'm going to grab the next one and put it on top of this other Europa. And this is how quick I've now just laid up these four devices. So let's just quickly go back up into the top here, and let's have a little play. Very straightforward indeed. And we'll have a little play of that in a second. Now this next setup, and a big cheer because we've got a CV8 and a CV switch, made it into the video. Yay! This setup is actually it's all one thing, this whole row here. So I've got this compulsion, which is far enough. It is notes, but I'm not using them in that aspect. I've got them sitting on top of this combinator, and I'm actually using this compulsion to drive the switches, which switch is being selected. And obviously the CV8 is actually then sending out note data. That note data is now coming into the note view, and I'm transposing that note around, which is then playing the Europa. There is this Thor down here which is not doing anything at all. I did originally have the LFO from this Thor driving the CV select switch, and I had it all in one combinator. The reason I decided to switch it off and switch out is obviously this is a player's video, so I thought, hey, let's use a compulsion to actually drive that and drive the CV select switch, and you get a very, very interesting result. So again, just playing one key only, I can get myself, as I say, quite an interesting result coming up. And you might be thinking, oh, well, we can get a sequencer and we can sort of do things with that. What makes this slightly different is obviously I can actually hold the note down, and it's now held that note, even though the sequence is moved on. Yeah, and the same with a chord or something. So it's something subtly different going on. I think it's quite a wicked little sound, and the way that's combined up, I think it works quite well. Now this next set of stuff I've got going on, I've got a couple of things merged into one. So I'm going to go down this line here first, and then I'll bring in this other line in as well. So yeah, I've got a CV tap, which I said, which I'm taking obviously some data really coming from this Thor. Again, it's going through another Euclidean rhythm, so I'm making a rhythm up, going through I always want to call it chords, scales and chords, which is then obviously then going into this strum machine. What's different is on this MIDI compressor, as you can see, I've absolutely flattened the velocity up to a certain point and then pull it up. And the reason I've done that, what that actually means is I've now, and let's see if I can bring this back up again. So by very gently playing this, you can see nothing happens, and obviously when I get to a certain stage, it's now brought in the strumming. I can stop it, start it, just by velocity data. I'm stopping and starting that purely by velocity data. And if we come over to this side, we've now obviously, I've got this compulsion which is actually playing obviously a little riff here, a little bass. Again, I've got another MIDI compressor which is being driven by an LFO, which is just subtly changing that. And obviously I've got another note view here going on. And this note view is very interesting because I'm actually driving this via CV, which is actually coming from this Thor here. So this Thor itself, as I say, by playing this keyboard here, is actually just driving this Thor. I'm driving what this compulsion's doing, what this strummer's also doing as well, because obviously I've got the CV tabs which is joining them together. And yeah, I think it's quite an interesting little setup of how this bass actually works. So if we actually bring the bass in, so yeah, so that's how we got them combined up. And down here, again, I've got another little Euclidean going, and I've got this actually wired up to this Europa, and I'm just purely using an envelope to drive the patterning going on. And so what that allows me to do in this particular case is to do with just a simple sort of snare hit going on here. And as you can see, as the envelope starts to drive up, we start to drive the pattern up, and we're getting a bit more of a roll going. Yeah, so that's what that's doing over there. So it's just kind of creating a roll, and it's just sort of a nice little motion going on. One bit I didn't touch on was this little layer here, which I'll come back to a little bit, and it's nothing much. It's just really, obviously these ID8s can be anything you want, as in combinators and all the rest of it. Is really what I was doing earlier, where I was laying some stuff up, but I really had this for my chord detector. I call it, I've given it a new name rather than chord detector, a feel good, because I don't have any musical background. Yeah, I can't read music. I can't tell you really too much about what chords I'm playing or anything else. So I've got this chord detector, obviously, which can show me and do that sort of thing. But I call it my feel-good chord detector, because obviously when I'm sort of playing something, look, it's told me I'm perfect. Hey, I can't go wrong there. Oh, I'm dominating now. So it's my feel-good chord detector. And just to get things really going over this other side, we've got obviously good old Pooh Bear, and Pooh Bear can even make a rhythm. Hey, so there we go, Pooh Bear's making a rhythm there. We've got these other compulsions, which, as you can see, the patterns is just so real basic. And I'm using this LFO coming out of here to drive the different velocities to go into the Kong. And what makes that interesting, so if I come down to this one here, so let me just stop that and bring that online. Here we go. As you can see, because I've got different layers going on within the Kong, I can now obviously come up with a different rhythm. So I've actually got, you know, like 3 different layers there. And obviously depending on the velocity you far out, it depends what hits. But I'm obviously sending the same velocity, and the MIDI compressor is changing that for me. So that gives and let's bring the bit of the Pooh Bear stuff in as well. And this is where we can have a little bit of fun, and we can do a little bit more of a jamming session, dare I say. Hey, crazy. There you go. Simple bit of jamming. As I say, I'm not a keyboard player, well, per se, and there we go. Let's having some fun with the players, playing the players. I hope you enjoyed my video. Have fun. Bye for now. This is Reason. Where's my fade knob? Ah!